There we go. Sorry about that. Microphone issues. Now, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki coming at you with a special Happy Mother's Day stream. Sorry about that. This one's probably not going to be as long just because it's Mother's Day, so I'm sure a lot of y'all going to be busy. But if you're here, we're here. Hey, Joano, Giovanna, Cameron Bailey, and J. Michael Holmes already in the building. Okay. What's good? Let me go ahead and post this in the church. Make sure everybody's ready. And then let's get this popping. Oh. Oh, Thomas beat me to it. All right. It's Thomas. All right, let me go ahead and pull up the chapter just because Mother's Day. So I want to get into the chapter a little faster. So I got, nope. My mic became unplugged and I had to fix it. All right, let me get into the chapter though. Because I got time to spend with my daughter. All right, so starting the chapter right away. Oh, that's a nice little segue. Opening up to Kendo and somebody who's a grenadier. They sabotage the system's foundation. There's no hope of reactivating this thing. Okay. Getting a bit of an explanation, which is likely also going to just segue into how the people who were in the subway car are able to be at the battlefield, obviously, because the goal was to get the Todoroki family blown up, which, if you think about it, does work as a good like propagandized tragedy of like, the heroes failed not only to protect your family, but their own personal family. So it just creates like this extra layer of these guys are failure to really push. But so everyone's out starting with the kids and old folks. This way leads up to the surface. Once you're up top, the UA robots can transport you. Mount the robots and give them directions. Okay, we see Death Arm still doing his job, carrying some of the elderly up the way. Mount the robots, give them directions. What a downpour. Hang on tight. Remain calm. We have more than enough robots for everyone. Above all else, don't turn back. Don't even look back. Don't stare at Dabi. Whoa. So for whatever reason, they said it out loud, which led to multiple members of people turning around, looking back. You can see that there's just this heat aura just stopping the rain from actually hitting the ground there, just instantly being converted into steam. Just really emphasizing how much power and how much heat that he's like outputting right now. Dabi's just kind of going brazy here. There's no time to lose. We can't stick around here. And Ray sees this and it's like, nah. And so then the robot pulls up and says, hop aboard. And immediately, Natsuo and Fuyumi, Mom, what are you doing? Look after your sister, Natsu. And Ray says, please, take me to the epicenter. And the robot says, we exist to serve humans' desires, which I just want to point out that at one point, Horikoshi did confirm that the Church of MHA speculation on the robots was accurate and that there was a Robo Rebellion back in the day. So this is technically progress. Oh, and the implication here is that it melted, driving her into the epicenter. That's crazy. Toya, and we see the robot, melting away as she runs forward, flesh burning. No, why are you here? Are you trying to cool him down, Ray? You must have coated yourself with a layer of ice to even get this close. Get away now or you'll burn to death. And Ray says, you mean the way you and Toya are about to die. And Endeavor's face is gone. Mom, Toya, I'm sorry. And then we see Toya, Natsu, Fuyumi. and we see the whole family getting in. No, don't. I can't take any more loss. Whoa, what? Toya, please don't take everyone down with you. I can't bear to lose anyone else. Cut it out already, man. Quit causing trouble. You sorry excuse for a brother. If I blast off and add my own heat to the mix, Toya's body is gonna blow. Please. Nobody else needs to die, so I should be in a ha ha ha. All right, my boy, take a break. I need Horikoshi to take a break. If he has to take a month-long break, 2-month-long break, that's fine. Horikoshi, take a break. Take a break. Because that chapter was on some Sonic the Hedgehog shit. That chapter was way too fast. It's not bad material, but it's way too fast. And by that, I just mean like it happened in a span of 11 pages. And this is something that realistically could have been a full 17 pager, or should have been a full 17 pager. Could have even been like a 2-chapter process if we had, depending on how we decided to execute on it. Just all around, just got to be a little different here. Let me go ahead and make sure I give this link to the right people. Horikoshi, please take a break, though. I don't want you having to put out 11-page chapters because you're crying, shitting, and throwing up because you're not well rested, man. Just take that break. We'll be okay. Your fandom is full of terrible people who are overly whiny, sure, but we'll be all right. Just take that break, man. Like, it's not worth it if you don't get to put out the story the way you'd love to, and to a level that you would love to. You got to take the break, man. You got to do it. They let Gege take that 3-month break. I need you to take that one too, man. Just get some time off and let yourself no, Google, I do not want to change my name. Slides through real quick saying I haven't been here live in a while. I want to congratulate Papa Aniki. Thank you for the congratulations. Shout out to my wife too, who's in the other room with the baby. You have to be tired of being right. You caught the Gaten Ray connection from way back. Honestly, no. That's one of the things that makes me feel like it's a pretty cohesively written story. So every time I like read something right and it turns out right, I feel like Horikoshi did things properly. They did, true, they had to turn in 2 chapters for Golden Week. This time it's not because of sicknesses. Horikoshi has produced longer chapters during Golden Week, though. So, well, it makes sense that it makes sense. I get what you're saying, where you know there's Golden Week, so he has to put out 2 chapters, but Horikoshi's comments in this week's jumps. Recently, I've been eating lots of almonds and peanuts. I feel like my intestines have gotten better. So when I said he was shitting, I was kind of joking, but I guess not. Bro, take care of yourself. I got a colonoscopy this week. You can take time. Took off work, went to the doctor. Man, which let me tell you, getting a colonoscopy is wild. Not because of the procedure itself. You won't remember that. It's wild because the prep is drinking this compound that liquefies your assets. So there comes a point where you're just peeing out of your butt, and you know the colonoscopy, you know that your system is ready for it because your poop will look like pee. Like it'll just be yellowy liquid coming out. It's crazy. But no polyps, no cancer. So we looking good out here. That's why I was going, make sure I wasn't gonna die, y'all, and my family. Hey, yo, everybody out here getting that 30 plus colonoscopy. Fun fact. You guys might have seen I smoke that fire in the chat sometimes. That's my boy. We didn't talk about it, but he had posted a story on Facebook, and I was like, oh man. I was like, oh man, what are you in the hospital for? And he was like, oh, I got a colonoscopy today. And then I was like, oh, samesies. I was like, twinsies. So one of my long-term buddies and I accidentally got a colonoscopy on the same day.
Wait. You missed out on National Colonoscopy Day?
No, I got mine Monday. So apparently that was National Colonoscopy Day. I don't know, man.
I was like, hey. Interesting conversation to come to.
Look, I'm just really excited that I don't have colon cancer because my grandma actually died of it. And she died at 44. It wasn't smoking crack that killed her. It was colon cancer. So
it was that damn colon cancer.
A life of drugs and you can die to colon cancer. Just remember that.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, Joseph. We're glad you I did not mean to torture you. Giorno, Giovanna, and Thomas in the building.
Happy Mother's Day, Americans.
Oh yeah, because you guys don't even have that internationally, do you? I mean,
we had ours like a while ago, so this is, something else.
But yeah,
happy Mother's Day to the missus.
Yep. She in the building. I'm sorry about those hemorrhoids. I know that's not fun. All right, I'm gonna get back on the chapter and off the subject of colon health for the sake of my chat and for Joseph's meal. I do like the fact that when we get this cutaway to Toya, he's missing the arm. But there's a bit of a pyrrhic nature to this, right? Because Toya is having this flash where he's happy, but what's missing?
Shoto.
Yep. So the only shot at a happy life that Toya can envision is one in which Shoto doesn't exist.
Thomas, you said something in the chat in the church about like that kind of when Shoto finally shows up, maybe Dabi starts, this whole happy little fantasy he's kind of having right now kind of comes to an end.
I said that like I could totally see Natsuo, Fumi, and Enji getting through to him, and then when Shoto comes back, that's when he like erupts. Not like an explosion, but just he is an all happy family. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Because of the fact that his mind seems to have been reverting to his childhood self, which I do think is a cool detail that he's still, even though he's like this now, he's still taller than Rei and Fuyumi. So that's a good way to show that, like, while he was always the smaller one, he's still not that small. But what I can't see it going any other way than what you just said, Thomas. Because outside of the possibility of him just straight up not having eyeballs to be able to perceive, Shoto, I feel like as soon as somebody says Shoto, it's a wrap. I don't think he's going to be able to, because like just seeing Shoto when he was practicing with his fire kind of set him off, and he almost attacked him back in the day. So I think we're kind of going to get a reliving of that, and then that'll have a side effect, or tangentially it'll lead to something happening to either Ray or Endeavor specifically. And it's worth noting that, he still calls her mom here. So we know that, like, he's still got that soft spot for Ray. He's had that soft spot. He doesn't call her Ray like he does NG Endeavor or anything like that.
So that last panel has been like something of a hot topic on Twitter. Personally, I feel like this is how Toya sees everything. Like, because his brain is practically soup at this point.
Yeah.
So like he's just like, this is how he sees the situation he's in. Like his whole family's come to see him, and like his dad's finally giving him a hug, as the jokes go.
I mean, that's kind of what's happening. Everybody's there to see him. Everybody, like, for once, he's in the position where his family is focused on him. And while the circumstances that led to him getting that focus are inherently negative, the attention he's getting is attention that says, I care about you, I love you, I don't want you to die, I support you. So in this moment, he is the center of his family's attention for the first time since he was like 3. And the thing with Fuyumi and Natsuo that's different is that you don't recognize losing something you never had. So for Natsuo and Fuyumi, there's a little difference, and Fuyumi also being the only girl, but there's a little difference here where those two never were given the burden. They were never expected to fulfill the role that Toya had placed upon them, that weight of expectations. So in turn, they don't understand, like, even like neglect is what they've known, just period. And as much as it'll probably be polarizing to say, it's better to be neglected the entire time than to be given affection, shown focus, have that adoration and praise, and be raised up, and then just have it all taken away. Because now you know what it's like. And you're sitting here wondering why you can't keep having that when you've had it the whole time. And so that's what's happened to him now. Which, shout out to my boys Cloud9, 2-0 up. Let's see if we can close out this series, even though we're going to get bodied by Gen G next week. But that's okay.
Also, did you super chat?
Oh, Mr. Andrew coming through. So, like, we think at chapter 390 is the end of the fight, to parallel 290 and 190 being Toya chapters previously.
I actually talked about that with East last night. Or was it the day before? I can't even remember. Where I believe like it was going to be a big chapter, whether Shoto arrives or Dabi does something amazing, because 290 was Dabi's dance. Like, that was such a big chapter.
And 190 was his first meeting with Endeavor.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't see Hori like doing something small with that chapter. If anything, I think it's going to be big, and I don't think it's going to be at the end of the fight. I feel like that'd be too rushed, because that's next chapter. So I don't know.
I mean, I can see
Or
Shoto
two
showing
chapters,
up at the end of next chapter, possibly.
Yeah, I could see Shoto showing up next chapter, and then like the 390 will be just dealing with that whole situation, see how he reacts to that. And actually, I think it was yesterday I saw on Twitter that 1 year ago yesterday was the quote unquote conclusion of Shoto versus Toya, when Shoto did that giant ice attack. And remember how people saying people saying how rushed the fight was, when 1 year later still going on.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Oh my god, I actually didn't realize that. So yeah, 2 chapters time, because it's what, 288 now?
Yeah.
This was,
or 388.
Yeah, this is 388. So 390s in 2 chapters.
Okay.
Whatever you do, Hori, please do not cut away. Please do not cut away.
And
I mean, I wouldn't think I would be saying that after like he cut away from like All for One, about to square up with All Might again. But yeah, don't cut away, please.
Like I can give justification towards like All for One and All Might being pushed to the side because that's a big fight. So you want to get rid of like a huge chunk of the battlefields before then. Like I can see us go to Aoyama after this or Sero, but this is something I don't want to cover until Shoto arrives or something. There's something that is a worthy cliffhanger.
I actually wouldn't be surprised if like he just shows up with a
Testing.
conscious. Oh, yep. Hi.
Hello.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, my microphone got weird for a second.
Were you trying to talk?
Yes, I had been trying to talk and it just wasn't working, and I was like, "Damn, what is going on?" What I was gonna say is, Ingenium is rushing towards this explosion.
Mhm.
So, do you believe that Ingenium's role here is to simply get Shoto there, or do you believe that he's going to have to try to get like Rei or Natsu or Fuyumi out as well, kind of mirroring that joint training scenario? And this time, instead of the building falling on him, he makes it, or anything like that?
I've seen like one person in a server I'm in mention like Ida could, which I don't think will happen. And I'm not saying that I believe in this, but he will rush in, grab Dabi as he's mid-explosion, and sacrifice himself, which I don't think. I feel like Ida's role is to guide lost children by the hand and bring them to safety.
Well, I don't think Ida can
in
get
this,
that close to Dabi.
I mean,
himself.
he gave Shoto most of his armor too, so he's like
Yeah.
he
would die.
Yeah, I think his role right essentially is taxi and then maybe getting other people out of harm's
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Which now, actually, I got to double check that because he said he gave him most of his armor, and I want to see how much of that.
As
he
in,
actually-
like his face.
Yeah, I
guards.
knew. Yeah, I was gonna say I know he gave him his face guard because otherwise Shoto was just gonna suffocate.
I
Which-
thought there was other pieces he gave as well.
Oh no, but that's like probably one of the most important parts of his armor, or it's
Yeah.
like that's how he was able to withstand high speeds. So in a way, that could have helped him with the heat.
Yeah.
Let's see, which chapter was that?
That was
Like 2 chapters ago?
386 because that was the I Am Here chapter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, yeah, who changed my name? I would vastly prefer that.
Honestly, I would say like the smaller like Aoyama and Sero, I feel like that's with everything converging, like we're gonna get some kind of cliffhanger somewhere where we do get those fights kind of tied into what we're doing now. Maybe not with Dabi, but maybe at Gunga or UA somehow. I don't know.
I agree with
And
that.
Thomas was right. The only thing that Shoto doesn't have is the ankle support. Everything else is on him.
So Ida's just in a like regular clothes.
Yeah, he's basically like in a tracksuit with some fancy shoes. That's it.
Wait, let me look at this stuff there.
And that's what Ida has?
Yeah, Ida gave. Yeah, no, but Thomas was right. He gave basically all of his armor to Shoto.
Oh no, that was Joseph who said that.
Sorry.
Not me.
Okay, sorry, Joseph.
Honestly, unless Hori's gonna try to kill.
Oh, he
off Ray.
did. Oh, I completely missed. Oh, what?
Because I focused in on the fact that his legs were still kind of armed, but then I realized when I look back at this, the knee joint is on Shoto. So yeah, from the knee up, all that stuff was given to Shoto.
I completely looked over that. I don't know how, but I looking at the panel now, I see the back, the knees. Oh shit. Oops. My bad. But I do want to ask a question because I've seen this make the rounds around Twitter, especially in the server. Giorno kind of tested this because he commented on it. How do you feel about Natsuo's comment?
Uh,
Because Natsuo saying, "Quit causing trouble, you sorry excuse for a brother," to a man who is currently, mentally regressing to a childlike state isn't the right.
I just don't like that's his
phrase.
first words to his brother that he thought was dead for a
Yeah.
decade. You know,
Because there's a difference between being like upset and trying to like be calm and collected but failing, and this. Because this is because what was the lead the scans? It was like, "You idiot brother."
you idiot brother, stop.
I'll take that over this.
I don't know. That seems like a lateral move, honestly.
Yeah,
I don't think either one of them is very nice. And I don't know. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know,
I agree.
I
I
don't know
agree.
if
I just
one-
rather take what
I
like the
don't
lesser
know.
of two evils.
I don't know if one is worse than the other. Just
I feel like Natsuo almost never says the right things, and I think that's just a part of his character.
I honestly
Yeah.
accepted
I can
that
believe
when it
that.
came to
I
Endeavor.
can believe that.
he isn't Endeavor's son.
He said,
Hello,
"Don't cause
everybody.
any more trouble, stupid big bro." Also, hey, Mpanzu.
Mr. Andrew came through with the super chat saying, "Do you ever think about people making opinion statements and wow, why is it doing this right now?
Wait, do you ever think about
But and treating them as facts, but when they get called out on it, they say it's my opinion and right."
bro? That's just Twitter in general.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
or even on Discord, because I've seen that in multiple servers. Like, people are just stubborn and they view themselves as the right.
So I can't believe you've done this. Yes, Dabi is a mass murderer, but this is kind of one of those time and place things. Like, if
Yeah.
you're going there
Yeah.
to help the situation,
don't
how
fuel the
does insulting
situation.
him help the situation?
Yeah. Especially because you're trying to break through to your sibling. This is your family. And he's currently dying and about to take out the entire block. Even if you don't know that. Wait, he does know that. Like, it's just not the right phrase that you should go for.
Especially coming off of what Fuyumi said. You know, like Fuyumi, you're just like, oh, my heart
Yeah.
goes out to Fuyumi, girl. Like you just want this family to like be together. And then you got Natsuo's statement.
I'm also. I think I just saw something in the chat. Post that Wolfman Luffy Natsuo always has been the straightforward, harsh type. Is
Oh,
it
for
true?
sure. Yeah, he's always been straightforward and brash.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
more
for me-
about he hasn't really seemed to have learned that like some of the stuff he says causes harm. And it is one of those. So one of those things that people talk about, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but I kind of talked about it one day where people can people with low self-esteem, which Natsuo definitely seems more like somebody with low self-esteem, can oftentimes do things that we would perceive and associate with arrogant people due to the lack of valuing of themselves. So he's frustrated, but because he's so used to not mattering, he's not caring or thinking his words have weight. The upside is that very clearly the image we see in Toya's mind here is not taking into regard the harshness of what Natsuo said.
Yeah.
So he's very clearly just able to like recognize, oh, my family is here.
I don't even think he can hear them, like what they're saying to him.
Yeah. Also, I agree. Natsuo he definitely has self-esteem issues because he's a college student. It kind of comes with the whole deal.
That's true.
But yeah, I agree.
Traumas that you can have on college, man. Damn.
I'm a college student, so I can say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know. I do think a lot of the hate Natsuo gets, especially in the community, is a lot unjustified because people will be too harsh on him, like from the backstory where he ignored Toya because he wanted to sleep because he's a child, or Natsuo's behavior towards Endeavor before the war. Like people were just shitting on him, and it's strange because he had justification. Like he was abused, like it or not, he was.
How old was Natsuo when Toya self-immolated?
Was he like
I believe
7?
Like 8?
like
It was 8.
because I think he was let's see, how old is he right now? That's how we'll figure this out.
I think it was like 21.
Because
maybe
we can look at the flashback because Toya, what was Toya? He was like
he was
12.
like 13. I thought.
Yeah,
Toya-
yeah.
Toy was 13.
So maybe he's around Ace. Let me see.
Yeah,
He
Toya
was
is
8.
the oldest.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
He was just big as fuck.
Yeah.
he really was.
like I said, he's Endeavor's son.
Yeah, he's a mini Endeavor.
Yeah.
Not only this, I think also it's because Toya was tiniest. I think Toya was the tiniest.
Yes.
Oh
well.
no! The reason why I say Natsuo was big as fuck is because at 8 years old he was still taller than Fuyumi by like a whole head.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was taller than Toya.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it's
Toya was a
normal, it's
midget.
not- Yeah, Toya was a midget because he's the. It is it's about his body. You know what I mean? If you look
Yeah.
at this part of his body, must have his father's body when you think about it.
Mhm. Most people only see abuse as
Yeah,
physical.
Camera Girl, you're
Rarely
right.
do we see neglect or. I absolutely agree, and that's why like the Endeavor family is probably one of the best things that come out of Jump because it has shown people like the whole scope of abuse through like the lens of the Todoroki family. Like abuse isn't just physical; it comes in pairs,
Yep.
like you said. So yeah,
Everyone in the family has their own perspective, and it makes complete sense why they all feel the way they do.
absolutely. Also, Luffy, you're right. This is probably the first time Dabi has ever been happy in a wholesome way since he left the hospital. I think
That's
slightly
really
wholesome,
sad,
but
bro. That's really sad.
Yeah.
It's actually true. Like
it took.
maybe there was like a time with the league where he wouldn't admit it that he was happy, but aside from that,
Mhm.
this is like bliss for him.
Yeah, and it took his body and his brain to be at boiling points for
Yeah.
this to
I
happen.
mean, he is a burning skeleton with hair.
Yes,
Yes.
and this is how wholesome it is for him. Like that. That's just
Actually,
upsetting.
does he have any eyes still? I'm looking at.
I think maybe not, but I like to believe he still has it.
I think he saw like Fuyumi and Natsuo, so I think they're still there
Yeah.
somehow, maybe for now.
Yeah, he saw them coming. Like he turned his head, or well, his head. Yeah, he turned his head to see Natsuo Fuyumi. So yeah, his eyes are still there. Also, I don't see like Horikoshi drawing him without eyes in the future, like next chapter or the next. I feel like that's just glow.
To Bofu, no.
Let's see.
Imagine if Natsuo had said that. Like during
Have you
those
tried
conversations.
not burning yourself? Oh shit, you're right.
And Cameron Bailey, I think most people, like especially in regards to that abuse spectrum thing, is like people who are beaten are often also neglected,
Mm,
and they end up preferring the neglect to getting beaten. And that's usually what it comes down to, is like people who are just neglected versus people who are beaten and neglected often. So it's like yes, it's bad, but people are like, yeah, but I would have preferred that to what I was getting. And that's basically what that comes down to.
mhm.
Now,
If that makes sense to you, I don't know.
with how like well done this plot line has been, like pretty much from the very beginning, I wonder if Horikoshi had like personal experience with stuff like this.
Mm.
I mean, he does have at least one sibling. We don't know if he's potentially like had another sibling that might have had something happen or not.
I think
I
he's
don't
the
want to
middle child.
speculate that far, but yeah. Which, I mean, like, so the stuff with Toya, especially being so heavily tied to like weight of expectations, that's very cultural, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Also,
classic.
it isn't unknown, and not what's the word? It isn't new where mangaka would research the topics that they tackle. So I can
Yeah.
see Hori both pulling from personal experience and learning from others and from books and going to meetings. I can see that. That's a very big possibility because this
Yeah.
is way too accurate. obviously in a superhero shonen, but like
This
it,
definitely one of the best side plots I've ever seen in a,
yes,
whether it's manga, live action, like whatever. This is
Oh yeah, that's
really tightly written.
how I got one of my friends into it is because like we were talking about the Todoroki plot, and they were just kind of grateful because they were like, it's kind of how like I remember I was talking to somebody who like had no experience with it at all, and I was kind of like, yeah, a lot of people are actually grateful for a story like this one because they were pushing the it's all harmful angle, and I was like, no, a lot of victims actually do kind of find it cathartic to at least see somebody try, and it's not set up as they just get forgiven or do something, and the people are like the only redemption is death, and I'm like, that's the logic of a person who doesn't deal with it, because when you deal with it, dying, yeah, that's cool and all, but that doesn't fix any of the problems you've given me. So a character actively doing something to like redeem themselves or trying like actively putting in the effort to get better is something that's a lot more cathartic, because it's like this fictional character is going to get a better life than the one that I had, instead of it just being like yay, another person died and never actually did the right thing. Like that's so interesting and engaging, and
there's definitely a lot of people out there who are going through what Shoujo or Toya has gone through, or Natsuo or Fumi or Ray, and they feel like they're alone, but they pick up this one manga and they're like, they feel seen, they feel heard. Like that's how, like, you could argue that this storyline has a lot of like negative aspects to it. Like it like you could say Horikoshi is abuse apologizing, which isn't the case. But you can't deny that there are people out here who see this as a coping mechanism, who see this as a good thing.
Yeah, I remember. I think that has actually happened, but like some of like when Ray was first shown with the hood fight, and I had that little scene.
Yeah.
Like her attitude seemed culturally accurate compared, and a lot of people like here in the West, they didn't really vibe with that, but it culturally, that is probably how someone would react. So I mean, it's an Eastern story from a Western perspective with a lot of complaints.
It's also kind of like I don't like using the term virtue signaling, but a lot of people get their morals based off like just what they think they would do. Like, if I were you in your position, this is what I would do. And a lot of people have managed to like do that, but with morals. So for like storytelling and stuff, they're doing that same thing, just with the morality behind a story, which, if anybody's ever had a conversation with those kinds of people, it's obnoxious as hell. And usually it's them just saying whatever because they've never actually had to be in that position. And so,
I mean, it doesn't help that Horikoshi, like, he treats his characters like they're people. Like, they are people first, characters second. So them being like, oh, I would totally tackle this my way, is like just saying, oh, these characters situations and our struggles mean shit because I can fix it if I was in their situation. It's like, that's not the way you should go about like reading the story.
I mean, plus you have to work with the themes that have been established as well. So you're not going to get like Horikoshi's following a plot beat, not just what is it like? At the end of the day, it's an idealistic story as well. So you're going to see people going above and beyond what you might normally expect of a person, because it's entirely justifiable for certain people to have feeling I mean, average people are flawed. Like, you're not going to see this ideal pursuit from most people, but it's refreshing in a fantasy to see people do that, and that's, I think, what people like about the series, and that's what Horikoshi wants to say, and I'm here
Mhm.
for it. But I get the complaints, I guess, sometimes.
Absolutely. Also, hey Seth, how are you?
Good
Yeah, I was
morning,
like,
happy Mother's Day to well
Mothers.
everyone.
to mother, to all the moms out there, you're all awesome.
Yes,
But
thank you.
Tyler mentioned in the chat. Oh Jesus, my mouse is acting up. He mentioned how Hori wrote an abuser, realizing he is an abuser, and actively trying to atone and do right by his family. And most people don't like that simply because they don't know someone who like that IRL. It doesn't help also, or well, it adds to it that you don't see the abusers like thoughts. You don't see what they're like, what's going through their heads. So I don't know if this is the right word, but there's a disconnect there.
no, there is a disconnect because one of the things that we also have to address at some point is that there's far more nuance to the Todoroki family plot than most abuse stories actually have.
Mm-hmm.
In turn, most people are used to, oh, this person tries really hard to get their parents' approval and then they don't do it right and blah, blah, blah. Like, which is ironic because if you think about it, Everything Everywhere All at Once is one of the most hailed stories. But for all intents and purposes, the forgiveness route in that movie is actually a lot simpler than what we get with the Todoroki story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a knock on the film because it's a movie, so it's going to be shorter.
Yeah.
But the idea of the forgiveness and the trying, it basically establishes the beginning of Endeavor's character arc. And it's a slightly less extreme version. But we also there's this issue that I found is that the most unforgivable villain is more beloved than the most flawed hero. When Dabi says, I'm not saying every hero has to be perfect, just you, that's basically how most people see protagonists and heroes in stories.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be perfect or there's a huge issue and they're going to get dragged through the mud, which is fascinating because I think if Endeavor had been written as a straight up bad guy at one point, not as a hero who's done bad things, people would like him more. Look at Vegeta.
Yep.
Oh, Vegeta and like Frieza's little glimpse of development in the tournament of power. People were eating that up, being like, "Oh my god, he's such a great person! Oh, Vegeta! Oh, he made up for all his wrongs by helping Goku."
Hell, there are Dragon Ball fans now that kind of forget that Vegeta was a mass murderer. Like he literally killed a ton of people. It was
multiple
horrible.
genocides.
There was a thread. Speaking of the genocide, there was a thread, and Jordan has seen it, where someone called Goku a terrorist, completely ignoring the fact that we have one in the series, and that's Frieza and Vegeta.
Yep.
Literally.
Vegeta is probably the most egregious example I can think of a character that had a redemption arc without the arc. It's just
thank you.
He just started hanging out with the Z Warriors and fucking Bahoma.
Yeah.
That was it. He smashed Rich Cheeks and was hanging out with the Z Warriors. That's it. Homie went to Earth and was got
an iconic button up.
Yep.
That said "bad man" on the back.
But hey, he had a fire t-shirt. We gotta forgive him for that dad's t-shirt that he had at the beginning of Cell. Right? It was at the beginning of Cell?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when he started. That was when he started rocking all those t-shirts and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so it's right. But yeah. To put it simply, they can't read.
Yeah, no, and God forbid you mention maybe that, even JoJo, holy cow, that show, part of the appeal is the absurdity, okay?
Mhm.
So having an actual Nazi there being part of the cast
Yeah.
and actually a good
people
member
love that
of the
character.
cast
They love
is
Stroheim.
insane. But I think people forget that it's fantasy. There's this veneer. The fantasy just does put a veneer over it. You don't have to take it that seriously. You really don't. Like, but people do, and they can't help it. And to a point, that's to the chops of the writer, right? Like,
Yep.
in a series as ridiculous as JoJo, you're not going to take the characters as seriously as, you know, something else. But yeah, no, like when I'm thinking of the I'm sorry, I'm distracted by Aniki's baby.
I just looked away and I just
I'm sorry, you know, that's it's cute. Anyway, no, like
Adorable.
yeah, like the veneer of fantasy, people forget that, but like the whole point is that you can explore things you're not usually able to because it's not real. And once you start purposely tearing at that, you're going to have obvious problems that um, uh, like there are obviously obvious problems when you take a fantasy and then try to cram reality into it. Like you're ignoring the point of the story and the point of the setting. So
Mhm.
yeah, no kidding.
I mean, My Hero has like the perfect blend of fantasy and realism that complements each other, right? Like
I think so, yeah.
Hori's a great writer with that. But when you like, who was in the chat who said it? I think it was the True Star. People that want to take fantasy seriously are not worth my time. I think a lot of fantasy try to take itself seriously. Like a lot of like magic manga / anime. Only a few has actually, had success.
Well, I
with
think the
it.
other thing is that a topic like, you know, family abuse, that actually does, of course, hit close to home. I mean, we
Yes.
all have parents that fight, for example. We can relate to the Todorokis on some level.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm sure not all parents fight, but, you know, but like, I just, like, there are aspects of the Todoroki story that I relate to, despite obviously not living in that hellish household. So I like that is what's good about how Horikoshi writes. Like it's a superhero show. Everything is ridiculous when you look at it, but then it's like, well, actually, this character moment has good beats. So I don't blame people for getting, I guess, their own ideas of how the story should go. But I think that if you actually look at the broader themes of what MHA is, MHA is not a bleak story. It's an idealistic story. So you're going to take all these broken people and try and drive them towards the ideal ending, whatever that may be.
So I want to back you up, Seth. If my audio is coming through, somebody tell me if it is.
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah,
I hear you.
All right, so
We heard the baby
Seth,
too.
I want to say that
Oh,
your idea, I want to take it a step further and say that My Hero is kind of about how do we improve society for everyone and down to family, from the most
Mhm.
personal level of family to friendships. How do we become better friends? Because if you look at Night Eye and All Might's conversation, there's, you're waiting until I'm dead. There's like the conversation about the neglect there and the over prioritization of work, etc., that led to them like their friendship falling apart. You have the Todoroki family, which is like, if you're going to be an abuser, these are things like, if you're an abuser to a certain degree, My Hero is kind of like, if you are an abusive parent, you need to accept the fact that your parents might not forgive you, or your kids might not forgive you. You need to accept the fact that the best thing for them might just be being away from you. That is like the thing that's constantly being hinted at with Endeavor. And that's what he bought, like why he bought them a new house and everything. He wanted them to be able to be happy and as a family together, even if his family being together meant him being apart from it. And when it comes down to like, if you're going to be a profession that claims to like be for the people, then you need to be doing things in the community to help them, enabling them, fostering their growth, etc. Oh, what's going on, Princess Fussy Butt?
Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, MHA is a story about saving people. And even, yes, bad people can have parts of them that are worth reaching out to and trying to engage with, that improves society as a whole. And yeah, it's also a story specifically about saving kids. Like that's kind of the point of the regression, whether you have Dabi or whether you see other characters. Like there's always a reference to what they were like as a kid somewhere in MHA, and that's always, it gets more powerful as you see it throughout the story. Because like there are the obvious children in the story, like Kota and Eri, but like you see references to what people were like as a kid constantly. Like even just earlier, like when Tokoyami's having his flashback, you see his relationship with Dark Shadow. Like Horikoshi wants you to remember that and he wants to reach out to kids with his story, which is why I just generally enjoy, even when MHA is being lighthearted, it'll go to darker places, but it's not gonna stay there. It's going to push forward towards the ideal ending, and I think that's honestly great for a Shonen Jump show, because a lot of them are edgy, and that's fine. Like I love them, but like at the same time, MHA is refreshing in that regard.
Edgy, like what? Like certain other series that will not be named.
Do you mean
Yeah, I knew it was gonna get brought up.
Jujutsu Kaisen?
Anyway,
I do want to compliment what Seth said about like children MHA. Like children as a whole represent purity. So us seeing Tokoyami, Deku, Shoto, Bakugo, and all these characters,
Shoji.
it hammers in, and Shoji too. It hammers in like that theme of just what's the word I'm looking for?
Origin
Of goodness. Yeah, origin too.
Oh, okay, yeah, that too.
Like
Obviously,
deep down,
innocence.
everyone has that like side of them that is still there. Like they. What's up, Anaki?
Yeah, that's the hope.
Well, I mean, you guys are talking about the side of them that's parts of childlike purity that are still there. What we've seen with the characters of this arc is that they are still broken children on the inside. They were never really given the help they needed. And in Dabi's case, you know, despite all the horrible things he's done and the fact that it manifests itself when he's an adult into absolutely heinous crimes, you saw just last chapter that really at the core of it all, when he's not thinking, he's still seeking approval from his father, right? That's what it all goes back to. And when Endeavor said, you know, last chapter, I accept full responsibility, that's him recognizing that Dabi has been kept in place by his own ambitions, which is why when he sees he has raised quirk deep within, but it's only called forth in like this absolutely terrible moment where he's about to die. All series long, Endeavor has had to accept the fact that like being like second best is not a bad thing, right? He was second best to All Might. He was second best. He's second best to Deku. He's second best to his own son in a lot of ways. And so, upon accepting gradually that all of this is his fault, it's really fulfilling to see him just accept that there is not really room for anything else. He has to accept responsibility. Although when he was talking about, you know, all the family members at the table but not him being there, you do get a family shot of them at the end of this chapter, minus Shoto, of course. But Shoto isn't there yet, so I'm pretty sure we'll get the full family picture once he finally arrives. But yeah.
I don't know if we want to see Shoto.
Really?
Well, I mean, I know we were talking about this earlier, but you know, we're talking maybe, and when Shoto arrives, maybe that happy picture kind of falls apart a little bit, since, you know, for him, Shoto is kind of the cause of all of his problems aside from Endeavor, since he was his official replacement. So maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he has to come. He has to come eventually.
Yep.
There's no resolving this without him.
Yeah, I don't see a family picture happening when Shoto arrives. If anything, we're going to see a burial.
Well, there is that, but I do think like, I mean, the whole family's there. I think there is going to be some form of catharsis. I don't think Dabi can just like. I think the way Dabi goes out has to be somewhat poetic, right? There has to be some elegance to it. He can't just dissolve into a fiery, hateful rage. I think there has to be a little resolution there. That's just my take.
You have to put out the fire, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Man, I think Shoto's gonna be a big
So-
part of that.
For
That's
me,
kind of why I think that like Shoto showing up juxtaposed with this chapter is an
Mhm.
especially heinous finish,
mhm.
because it'll kind of be like the solution this entire time is a world without Shoto, and that's just not what it's going to be. And I think that's like extra, like that's what I think becomes like the sad part. Like we get to see this moment and we kind of get to see what could have been, but ultimately like that's not the world we live in. We live in a world with Shoto, and it's the mistake that Endeavor made trying to replace Toya, but it is what it is now.
The thing about is like for me, like, at the moment that I think Shoto will see a scene of them dying together, his family dying together, taking all this pain, all that curse of their family with themselves, and pushing him to the better future. I like, because he was seen as by Endeavor as the hopeful future for his legacy and his own even. That was with the remedial course arc, if I remember. So the way that you saw how his perspective on should changed and how he could see himself too. So
I mean, here's-
I think
Yeah.
that Shoto will come see a scene because he was supposed to end that fire, to put out that fire, but the fire will be put out by his own family because he was supposed to be the one that put out the fire. You know what I mean? Taking the task of his father to end that kind of curse, but the family and the curse of the family ended with the family itself. Freeing Shoto. Allez, that's how I would write it myself.
I love Cameron Bailey in the chat. He's bloodthirsty. I need at least one of them to die, or just have it all be them. And Shoujo comes and sees his family entire dead. That's
Yes,
that's
that's the
wild.
scene. That's the
You
scene.
too,
It ain't that kind of
that's what I'm
Bloodthirsty.
picturing. Yeah.
It ain't that kind of serious.
Okay, who ghost wrote that? Who ghost wrote that comment? Which author?
That's the thing about it. Which author? Like I said, it's how I would have brought it myself, because it is the fact that they're all trying to save him, and the thing about everything happened before Shoto. Everything the whole story about the curse of the family happened before Shoto. Shoto just happened to he suffered of the consequences of the whole stuff that happened with Toya. Because the first thing that he knows, he was a baby. If you remember, that was the whole thing, that this relationship, he didn't have any relationship with his family, even with Toya. He didn't have a relationship. So he just knew Toya from seeing him. And then he died. He knew that he had a bigger brother, but not like he knew him. He later had a relationship with Natsuo, and I forgot her sister's name. But still, all this, and that's the thing about it, is that he just suffered the consequences. If he comes trying to save them, it is also a beautiful thing that he comes there, save them all. Because he's the hero of the family, you can write it also that way. That will be also pretty beautiful. But the thing that, like I said, the thing to see him come and see the end of his family like this, because they all try to save them, That's all try to save Dabi right now. They try to put the fire out and save himself and save their family. So, but yeah, like I said, the writer was me. I'm guilty for that, but still, there's so many. Horikoshi has possibilities that we can go. But what's your suggestion? What do you suggest? How do you see end it?
Who?
Let me check the name. Volk. Yes, I remember. Volk. What is your suggestion?
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, as far as like I was seeing people like predicting that, like, oh, maybe like the whole family is gonna die. I'm like, you don't know this series if you really think that's gonna happen. Like, and if you're asking for it to happen, I genuinely, like, if you're seriously asking for it to happen, I generally do not think you really get what this series goes for. I know people use that kind of like counter argument quite often, like, oh, you just don't get it. It's like, I mean, in this instance though, I think having MHA's gone for like almost 9 years now, you should know what it's like by this point. It's not the
Yeah.
whole family. It's not the whole family that's gonna die.
Mhm.
The real question, Dabi's done. Like, Dabi's gone. There's no
Okay. Okay.
As far as Endeavor goes, I'm
He's
not
living.
so sure anymore. I thought he was gonna die. I'm not so sure anymore.
Mhm.
I was pretty convinced Endeavor is gonna live just because I think when just seeing someone comment like, is Shoto's arc really gonna end with Dabi and Endeavor dying and him failing to really save either one?
Yeah.
And thinking about that, it's like, okay, thinking about the kind of story MHA is, maybe Dabi goes, but Endeavor, that does kind of feel like a
Not
maybe
maybe.
disservice.
Not maybe.
Okay.
He's gone. He's gone.
So
Endeavor though, I do want to start get this off before you start, Aniki. As far as Ray goes as well, I saw people predicting she might die. I don't. I really doubt that. But if she is gonna die, she only dies if Endeavor dies. Like,
First
that's
off
the
that.
only. Yeah.
Second off, what I was just gonna say was, as far as I'm concerned, Endeavor has been saved already. Like, does he have the perfect relationship with his family? No, but that's not necessarily what him being saved means to me. To me, what Endeavor being saved means is him seeing outside of himself, finally going beyond just looking at, surpassing All Might as a goal, him embracing the idea that it's okay. It's so what if his power isn't enough? Those things, being saved from his harmful ideologies, is what Endeavor needed more than anything else.
Yeah, but when I say saved, I mostly just mean from in this final arc, in this final battle, is Shoto really about to lose his brother and his father, which I'd be fine with that direction for sure, but I don't know if Hori's gonna do that.
I want to comment on the Ray like argument, right? It's like Ray up to the hospital scene has had no agency as a character. And this is the other instance of her actually, getting out there and being a person. I don't think Hori will take that away from us and kill Ray, because if anything, that's cruel. And I know like stuff like this isn't going to end with an entirely happy ending, but killing her is just out of the question, especially for My Hero standards.
Because My Hero is big on Pyrrhic victories, but I don't know if that would count as a Pyrrhic victory at that point.
Yeah, it would just be like twisting the knife. Like, I just like, look, she's been through so much. And like, yes, some of it was her fault, but I find it insane that people kind of like try to also like shift an equal part of the blame of her that Endeavor has. Like, no, this is mostly Endeavor's fault. And then subsequently Dabi's, when he, grew up and chose to kill all those people, right? This is largely on them. Like, yes, it is on her in part, but only in part. It is mostly Endeavor and then later Dabi. Because I see a lot of like I got like I don't know if you guys saw this, but like when I said that's like, look, Dabi stance cracked me up because yada yada. they think he can be redeemed or even survive. And and like everybody who like quoted or replied to that tweet just proved my point. Like, it was like anyways.
I think I don't think readers should take anything for granted. Like, I know we are talking about all the themes, and I think the themes are important for, keeping an informed view, but like, I'm not sure how Horikoshi is really gonna go with it. Like, none of us really are. So it's like, make your best informed opinions, but like, I think readers will, like the Dabi stands, like they're taking for, I don't think Dabi living is like guaranteed at all. I will say I am more unsure about his death. Like how you are with Endeavor, I'm actually with Dabi. I'm like, well, does he have something to
I
keep
mean,
Dabi
just look at him, man.
But then at the same time, I saw someone retweeted like a severed Dabi head in like a vat, and I just laughed.
Like
because,
Futurama?
really, what are you gonna
Oh
do,
my God.
Horikoshi?
I mean,
I
it's
do
not
wanna-
just themes though. It's not just themes. I think
yeah,
I
themes
think
and
people
characters writing and
yeah. I think people with their analysis get too caught up like, oh, themes, thematic. Look, theme is important, but you know what's more important? Actually making sure you give a shit about characters.
So here's the best example of themes mattering, but ultimately, you know what the best example of this is in the entire story? All Might. The theme, one of the themes is like sacrificing yourself isn't necessarily what you're supposed to be doing. It's okay to reach out. You don't have to be number one. All these other things, right? Those are all themes of his character arc and his journey. But Horikoshi will straight up say, these might be the themes of the story I am telling you, but if I have a 60-year-old man who is stubborn, who is, bold, who this is how he has lived his life, he is going to walk back on that battlefield. It doesn't undercut those themes, though. In fact, if he is severely injured, if he dies, it emphasizes, though, it like firmly drives those home. If he had just listened sooner, he might be alive today.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an accident that every time there's like a big battle post Camino, All Might is usually there holding his scar, his stomach scar, because he knows that if he never got that, he would be able to help.
I do want to comment on the Todoroki family biting the dust to Dabi, especially Ray. Like Endeavor and Dabi can definitely die. I don't think it'll be a massive blemish on the story if Endeavor dies. I think there's plenty of arguments and plenty of death flags for him to justify that. But I think in order for the future of My Hero Society to recover and to ensure that there's no Shigarakis and no Togas and no Dabis, the Todoroki family needs to survive. What I mean by the Todoroki family is Rei, Shoto, Fumi, and Natsuo. Because they, like someone mentioned in the chat, that they can get burned by Dabi's flames. I think that'd be a great reminder of them. It's like not just memories and not just mental scars, but physical scars to remember Dabi and to remember that we can't let another Toya happen.
I mean, they're probably all about to have burn scars after
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I
for
want to
sure.
address something Cameron Bailey said, because they were starting to, both people say Eri will remind Dabi, and that's how he will survive. They say that because I can't take anything seriously if Eri is there.
But
yep,
but it took months for Mirio to get like a few months back.
I want to address something very important, which is that one, I hate the fact that people treat shonen as a genre.
Yes,
It's just a demographic.
Oh my God. That's
But
my biggest pet peeve.
People have a very strong tendency to blame My Hero by association. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are so critical of it, like way more critical of My Hero than I see discourse on almost any other series within this fandom, if I'm being honest. Even as somebody who's like heavily invested in like the One Piece fandom, even though I don't talk about it as much as My Hero, nearly as much.
Mm-hmm.
But One Piece fans have moments where they're critical, they're engaged, and I'm going to clarify this because I think a lot of people think bad faith only means you're trying to lie to other people. It also means lying to yourself. Yep. So, for example, that thread about how Horikoshi only includes Deku, Rabbit, Uraraka, as a ship because he was depressed and he wanted to appeal to losers, and he never intended to do that. That
Oh
was
my
bad
God.
faith because that was that person just coping with the situation. It wasn't something that realistically they actually could believe. It was just something they were telling themselves to make their argument sound better.
Definition
they-
of copium.
And they got absolutely destroyed for that.
So
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
because it's such a poorly structured argument for other readers that you have to be operating in the sense where you're just trying to talk yourself into circles here. And so in the case of Eri, right? And I don't mean to disrespect Tabata because I have like some of the stuff that's come out recently. But people think of Mimosa when they see Eri.
Oh,
People
boy.
think of the Dragon Balls when they see Eri. People think of, I'm trying to think of some other Hashirama cells when they see Eri.
You know what? I can see that. I can see that.
Now people definitely expect like Dragon Balls.
Yeah,
type,
like
you know, like
they
just
see
her
her.
for
They
that.
see her as a reset button.
And
Yeah.
look, and I'm just gonna say the closest we've gotten to like just something magically coming in to save a character has been the most contested and probably one of the most controversial part of the entire story, which is Edshot revealing he has the ability to do some little life fiber things and restore Bakugo's heart. Right. So like just think about what you're asking before you speak. Right.
Mhm.
And I think some of it as well is we've touched on this before, but I think a lot of it is I've noticed people who just like get really hung up on like little things in MHA, whether they are actual flaws or not. They get so hung up on it. And more often than not, MHA is the only thing they ever consume as a manga.
Yeah.
Also, I'm
only-
going to say this with the edge shot thing. The biggest flaw in the execution of the edge shot thing isn't even, it's not actually the bubble.
Nope.
Because hell, the bubble somehow survived a decay wave. So that's not the issue. It's not even the fact that he was willing to try to save Bakugo. It's just that we didn't spend enough time with Edshot for people to really think about what's going on with his powers. Because we constantly get, which are he's a ninja, so you barely notice it. But the first time we see him actually like pop off, he goes inside of Kurogiri's bodies and just straight up damages his organs. Do you know how precise you have to be to just play in someone's body, damage their lungs or whatever?
He
Bro,
did that
pass
a
out,
couple.
but not kill them.
Yeah, he did
He
that
did
to
that-
multiple people. There more.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
There's a
I got
certain
you.
level of insane that comes into what Edshot has been doing with his powers the entire series.
He could have
Right,
been a
people are
doctor.
super
He could
competent.
have been
Yeah.
a doctor.
To be honest, like the flashback that we got in with like Edshot and Best Genius, we should have seen that like in the not like I know people constantly bring up we should have seen that in the story, but this happens this is the case here. We should have got those moments.
Like Edshot's
Even
character
if
just
just them
needed
talking.
more time in the sun, because I guarantee you the second somebody talked about an internal injury, if we had spent a bit more time or seen like the positive sides of like Edshot tampering with somebody's body, it would have been different.
Yeah. Because him
Yeah,
him helping the heart, like the broken heart, is plausible considering his skill.
What we've
and
seen him fucking do.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. But it's the fact that it feels, even if like we know it's possible, it feels like it came out of nowhere. And I think that's the biggest downside to that moment, because it could have been really cool. And I think Coffee mentioned it in the server, but I believe Hori actually thought this was really cool. Like he was doing something like, oh my God, Edshot, best hero, he sacrificed himself to save Bakugo. Like we could have had that feeling if we had more of Edshot, especially because he's hired Team Lurkers with one of the best side characters in the entire series and probably shown in general, and Kami Woods, who has been a top 10 hero.
Right.
Yeah,
no,
like
the
Edshot's
background
plot
is all
lines
there.
are just a little shaky, and that's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
perfectly fine thing to critique. I don't And that's why, like, I understand some people, and also we need to accept the fact that shock value deaths are something that some people just value.
Right. No,
Educate.
this is why series like Attack on
Yeah,
Titan
we don't
or
talk
other
about
Had to
JJK
bring it
because
up,
that
had
might
to
be
bring it
vomit.
up.
What are you gonna say,
Okay.
Seth?
I know I've been ripping JJK a lot lately. I have just been so baffled by how Gege has handled his endgame. So
Can we not talk about JJK because I will vomit on stream? That chapter was awful.
Hey, chill. It was bad with a
No,
twist.
I'll say this much. The latest JJK chapter had its good points, right? And there's still some good parts of the series, and I think it's still going to be very enjoyable. It's just I just find it funny that people criticized MHA for being a rushed conclusion, and then like the monkey's paw curled inward, and then Gege was like, "Oh, really?
Look,
Wanna
me
bet?
just match
You
my
talking about my
besties.
buddy Horikoshi like that? I'm going to
Do the
choose a
same.
real rushed conclusion."
look, chill on JJK. I don't want people to feel like this is the anti-JJK arena, because it's not.
No.
Nah, it's not. It's not.
Do I think
But-
technically writing-wise it peaked at the Gojo flashback sequence? Yes.
You're not wrong. It did peak
But-
at Hidden Adventure, which
But
is being animated. It's coming out in a few
think-
months.
I think that just comes down to your taste, because like
Yeah.
certain, like for example, my favorite part of the Cullen games was Megumi versus Reggie. So I know that's not everybody's favorite.
I love
But
that
to me,
fight.
that was the best fight that we got out of that section of the story. It was the most like jujutsu technical sorcerer fight, like hands down. But
Me personally, I like the Higuruma fight out of every fight in Cullen game, but
yeah.
Reggie fight is really good.
I'll also say this: there's something that happened with Yuji, just like in this chapter, that I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like that moment, like Aniki mentioned, was talking about in the channel, the JJK spoilers. I thought it was really cool. Even if I was like, why are you doing it with that person? Fair enough. But the chapter has good parts to it, but overall it was just a mess and not how I envisioned the conclusion to be.
I will say that I have never ever actually liked a time skip in shonen, like not one.
Really?
I don't think any of them are actually good. Some of them are kind of necessary and can work, but a lot of the time, like the execution just does not hit. Whether it's One Piece or Naruto or Bleach to a lesser extent, actually. No, I think Bleach is kind of fine with it. But like, just generally like the fact that we have to jump backwards to explain what all these characters did instead of just showing us in real time.
Well,
Wait,
Yeah.
Seth,
Sometimes it's nice, but sometimes it takes
Wait,
way
Seth,
too long to
I have
go
a question
through all
for you.
of that.
since you don't
And
really
even
like
MHA
time
does it.
skips and like shonen, how do you feel about 306?
Yes. No, okay. So for 306, that was only like 2 weeks, I think.
Mhm.
And we kind of got it immediately, but we still skipped like reaction stuff that I would have wanted to see. So even that I'm not a huge fan of. But the worst thing Hori did actually to me was before the PLW even
Right.
started. We jumped 3 months.
okay, I got
3
disagree with that.
months.
I gotta
We
disagree
jumped.
with that because here's
It
what
worked
happened before
narratively.
PLW. Shh. Here's what happened before PLW.
It works narratively. Don't get me
Nothing.
wrong. It hits a story beat right, but I want more MHA, and we could have gotten more moments like before we.
Listen,
jumped into
World
it.
Heroes
respect
Mission
it. I
happened
respect
in
it.
those months, so I
Respect
accept
it.
that. That's
You know,
fine.
Ultra
okay.
Impact loves that time frame because they have set so many events during that 4-month gap.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Like this is why. Like no, I'm coping when I or like
Okay.
no. Or what I
Okay,
mean to
I'm gonna
is
say
that-
this as a writer. I'm gonna stop it right there, Seth. I really disagree with the notion that like, oh, all time skips are bad. Because I'm gonna tell you this right now. A lot of times they are necessary.
I know,
One Piece, I did not like the arc that came after, but the way the time skip was set up, masterful. Right. MHA, it doesn't really do like solid time skips like as long as other series. I think the biggest was before PLW because that was
It
just
is.
like it was 2 months of just hero work. Like just regular boring mundane hero work. It's like that's not interesting, right? That's not really pertinent to the story. So like if you got to skip ahead a little bit, I'm completely fine with that.
What I've always said
No, I'm not
is
saying
My
it's
Hero
literally
does
bad.
time
I'm
slips.
just saying I don't
I agree.
like it per se. That's all I mean. And
Yeah.
even with One Piece, I'm like, I'm not reading a 1,500 chapter manga for this. Like, your manga is long enough. Like, please get to the point. At
To be
some point.
honest, I don't think it's long enough.
But that my issues with One Piece
Interesting.
go beyond the time skip. But like, I
We
just
can hear
mean
you,
like
by
the
the way.
execution doesn't always hit me.
Well,
That's fair.
I'd
That's
say
all.
I'd say in One Piece it makes sense because like just Luffy was just not strong enough. Like the way it was set up, like there did need to be a little bit of that break, and you have to think of the real world context behind that too.
Yeah.
But
No,
at
absolutely.
That, like Oda was writing that for like that series for like something like 15 years, I think. By that point,
Yeah,
Or
but
it was
Gosh.
that break he took was after Sabaody,
no
which
that
is which
it
is
was after
wild.
Sabaody. I thought
Yeah,
it was. I thought it was the time skip.
I'm pretty sure he took that month-long break after he wrote Sabaody or Sabaody, because I remember somebody talking about it in the fandom where they were saying, nah, the idea of Oda taking a 1 month break after releasing this chapter, where it was the one where it was like the Straw Hat Pirates were eradicated, is insane. Which, if that was where he like, maybe I'm remembering wrong, or maybe that person just got it wrong. But if that's where he took that break, that is kind of the craziest like cliffhanger to leave a series on. Because at that point,
True others.
especially if they don't explain that he's just on a 1 month break, you're sitting there like, did One Piece just end? Like, that's nuts. That is nuts. Also, though, would have been a crazy ending. Like, that would have been a good ass ending. Like, whoops, sorry, he doesn't get the One Piece. They just lose here.
To be honest, I had a similar like feeling, like a manga had like taken a break when it was about to get crazy. Was because obviously I wasn't reading One Piece at that time. I had better things to do. But the Black Clover like break, the 4 month break before the final like section of the manga, killed me, because I was like, okay, you introduced this really cool antagonist that we've been waiting for a while, and then you just pause there. Come on.
That was a perfect time to stop.
Yeah,
That
but
was
it
honest,
killed me.
Like, I'm a little mixed on him as a villain, but I still like him more than I liked Dante, and I like him more than I liked Zagreus.
It's yeah, like
and more than I liked Lick.
I was begging Tabata to like make one good, decent villain, and Lucius is a pretty good villain so far. I'll say that much.
Xenon
I mean, I like
good.
Zenon. Yeah, Zenon is a good, decent villain.
Okay, okay. Here's the thing with Zenon. Everybody throws it up like, but Zenon. Zenon was not a main big bad.
That's true.
Oh no,
That's my thing.
I agree.
Like everybody throws in like, oh, what about this side villain? I don't care.
I agree. But I do think Black Clover has that like
it's the same reason. It's the same reason why like Demon Slayer's Endgame kind of flopped a little bit for me. Muzan is just a terrible, boring villain. Like, I'm
Muzan
sorry.
is awful. I don't like Muzan. I like the other villains. Don't like Muzan.
I didn't like anything after Akaza, basically.
Wait, what'd you say? After the
I didn't like Doma. I didn't like Kokushubo.
You don't like Kokushibo?
Nope.
Really?
Okay.
Interesting.
Obviously,
Obviously, no spoilers to the people in the chat, but
I blame it on the fact that I look at him as a villain, and people are like, "Ew, he's kind of." I'm like, no, he's a pissant that never grew up.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually one of that is actually one of my least favorite archetypes of people. Like, I don't like Dofi as a character that much either, because of the same reason.
Man.
I don't like people who don't grow up, and that's like the core of their villainy. Like Dofi's entitlement from being a 6-year-old and like experiencing the world didn't make him grow up. He met a bunch of people who enabled his terrible tendencies. Like, it's solid writing, like technically, but I don't find that interesting or engaging. You bore me. Grow up. Get a real hobby. Do better.
Get a job. Touch grass.
You can tell Aniki has kids.
Dad energy coming out.
But yeah, he does have stands.
I just want you to be better.
So, because like for example, like okay, let's take the Dofi example real quick. Crocodile and Dofi are like the same guy as far as warlords, entrepreneurship.
Okay, so this is One Piece.
I love Crocodile so much more.
I love Crocodile.
Like, and Crocodile is technically a loser when we meet him. Like, for all intents and purposes, he's a loser. Anybody who's in the New World and is kicking it in the paradise, running shit, is a loser. But he's so much more interesting to me as a person, like as a character. He's just much more fascinating.
Dofi just gets the pass for a lot of people because of, number one, his double fruit. Number two, his fight with Law and Luffy. Number three, his design. Like, those what give him, like, and that speech that he had. I think those are the reasons why people hold Doflamingo to a higher regard. Well, I get that. Like, One Piece to me doesn't really have the strongest villain cast. Like, I don't like Kaido. I don't like Gecko Moria. I don't like most of these villains, but I do like Crocodile. I do like Arlong, even though I hated Arlong for the longest time. I do like him. It's just
You like him as a
Doflamingo
villain.
Yeah,
Or
like
more that you read the story, or more that you like Orlong. That's how it
Yeah.
is. It was really like this.
To answer your question, Cameron Bailey, which Cameron Bailey just asked, wait, so does that mean you dislike Shigaraki at the beginning of, but MVA you started loving him? Correct. Actually, I started liking him during Overhaul.
Yes.
Because
That's where he
for
starts to
me,
grow up.
Yeah, he was annoying at first. He was like this whiny dude, and I was just like, dude, you got bitched.
You cheated.
You got dicked by the entire squad. Like,
Mhm.
you got passed to the homies. Give up. And you fast forward, and he's like, Master, no. And I'm like, okay, so like, you know, he's somebody's student, so he's supposed to have this room to grow. And then you fast forward to the Overhaul arc where, you know, Magde gets killed, and Shigaraki's like, we're gonna get it back eventually. Don't worry about that. Shigaraki opts to work with them. So I'm like, okay, like now that he's out on his own doing shit, he's learning. And then when he pulls up on Overhaul, at that fucking, like, I remember reading that shit like the day it dropped. Like, that chapter dropped, and I was reading him like chop off Overhaul's arms, who Overhaul had become my favorite villain at that point in the story. For him to catch him out in the streets lacking like that,
Yes.
I was like, all right, I'm on board the Shiki train. He has potential.
You get it.
Literally, the way
I was
that
like, this is what, okay, I was like, this is what I want to see out of him.
Yeah,
that was my
that's it.
favorite Shiggy moments.
That was the moment. That was the moment for me as well, where I like, look, I was interested in him before. It's like I thought he had so much potential, and that was the arc where he really starts realizing. It's like, okay.
So I have a question, right, towards Volk and Anarchy. What about the mall chapter?
Yeah,
I
for
thought
me,
the
that
ball
was
was interesting,
me,
but it wasn't. It, like, I was like, damn, he took the wrong thing away from that.
I will
Yeah,
say,
bro, that's a massive reach.
that the anime episode is still my favorite episode of the anime.
It's such a good episode.
It's
And, like-
it's a great encounter, but like
Literally
I
what
think
it's
like
called.
you go back to it now and you appreciate it way more. Like, I thought it was cool when I first went to it, but as things have developed and I've realized that that's kind of like the foundation of Deku and Shigaraki's rivalry, I've come to appreciate it. Like, it's one of those chapters that just gets better and better the more time goes on.
Especially since that's the last time they talked for a
antagonism is
while.
better to say.
Yeah.
It's
For
like,
sure,
okay,
It's
Jonah.
the start of their again antagonistic relationship, and it's that's the start of it.
at Camino, he really takes a backseat, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
He's a kid like watching
So-
his master die.
so you got like that where it's like he's gonna grow, and we're like, okay, we'll see. And really, the main thing that I like about this is also why I say that provisional license is cursed. It's not an inherently bad arc. In fact, what I'm going to say is that, especially after having this third go around, most people, I won't say most, a lot of fans like My Hero Academia. they do not like Horikoshi's writing style.
I can see that.
And the reason why I say this is because to me, so one of the things I've said before is comparing Deku Black to something like the Pro Hero arc or the PLW arc it's kind of a bad faith comparison.
Yeah.
Because they serve two very different narrative functions. You can't compare it to MVA either. The only arcs that Deku Black should be getting compared to is basically the first 20 chapters of the series and Provisional License. Because those three arcs all share the same purpose.
They set up the tone.
Because each act is distinct in the story that it is telling. It is just a continuous story within the same series. So what Horikoshi is doing in each of those sections is different. For example, Act 2 is the Rise of the Villain Saga. That's where we start exploring. That's why even though the anime kind of switched up the order, the Twice chapter, like the famous Twice chapter, is like chapter 115. It happens before we even get Deku versus Kacchan 2. So that's how it's spaced during Provisional License. It's before that fight. We purposely go explore Twice and the perspective of what the villains are doing because they're going to be getting their own storylines. And because if you look at like Forest Training Camp arc, the villains have an agenda. They don't have their own storyline in that arc. They're showing up to engage with the villains, with the heroes, with our kids. They're fighting them, sure, they're trying to kidnap, and it's building up to like their goal, but there's no actual storyline for them. Like they just show up, we're just meeting a bunch of people. Like, okay, there's that motherfucker. There's Crazy Tooth McLoveface. There's, even crazier Tooth McMurderface in the Gimp suit. Like, it's like that, right? Like we're meeting a bunch of villains and then like some of them get parsed out. We're like, there's World War II war crimes inspired kid who spent too much time caring about World War II history. You're like, there's buff nigga that needs to chill out because he's taking too many steroids. There's, Mr. Blue Flames that calls Shoto by his whole name for some reason. What the fuck is up with that guy?
There's a cosplayer who should be at Comic-Con.
There's Mr. I'm My Hero's Deadpool, and I don't know what I want to talk about for real. There's the trans lady fighting the trans man. Got to keep that LGBT on LGBT crime going. It's like you're just meeting all these people. There's the magician dude that talks a lot and can't help but put on a show and accidentally cause himself to get found out because he just can't help but like make fun of people.
He's a showman.
You're just meeting the League of Villains, but there's not like a plot line yet. You just met these niggas. And even with Stain, it's like Stain is out here killing heroes. And it's like, this is just an antagonistic force for Ida, who is going to spur on and like create more antagonists down the line. But it's specifically a catalyst. It's a thing that's happening to the heroes for a long part. Once we get to Provisional License, we get Twice having his own adventure. We get him talking to people. We get, the encounter between Overhaul's group and the League of Villains. And it's like, boom, they have straight up their own relationship and dynamic with these people. We end up investigating Overhaul from the hero side, but the shit we're doing and the shit the League is doing, the only common point is Overhaul itself. Everything else is unrelated. Like we're working together, like they're working together to do their shit, and you're trying to stop their shit, but you don't even know you're trying to stop the League shit. Because as far as you know, they had a bloody conflict and they're not affiliated. So they didn't know the League was, like, you remember, they didn't know the League was helping and working with Overhaul until they were fucking balls deep in the base. Like, they're sitting here stroking it out, and all of a sudden, like, knock at the door. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, honey, you in there? Oh, shit. You married? Like, they didn't know what was going on. That's like they went home with a girl and found out that was like their homie's girlfriend that they just started dating a month ago and they didn't even know. Kind of shit. Like, They did not know what they were getting into when they were getting involved with the league, in like two completely separate stories. Hell, layer that in with the fact that a provisional license arc, you also had Toga stealing blood from Ochako, so that like it took it up an extra notch. They were there the whole time. The villains are like every important story beat, the villains are involved in a provisional license, but their goals are totally separate and like completely irrelevant to like what we think of the heroes. Like they wanted to get it back in blood against Overhaul. We wanted to arrest Overhaul. We both wanted to take Overhaul out, but we're not working together. We're just side by side, parallel play, as they call it. So then when you finally get to like My Villain Academia, fuck these kids. Here's what the adults are doing, who are also kind of called kids, but like here's what the young adults are doing. They're running these streets, homeless, looking for shelter, a warm coat, somewhere to lay their heads.
And bam, they're hit with racists.
It's bad enough to be homeless, but now you got to be homeless and deal with racists. Can't do that.
They did kill him, no problem.
So you got to murk the racists, do what you got to do. But that's them having their own through line. And they start to reconnect once you get to the Endeavor Agency arc. Because of Dabi sending ending after it, but that's technically Dabi's own agenda. That's not even related to like the league's goals, right? That's Dabi getting to have his own thing. So once the PLW comes, that's when their ideals and like what they're trying to achieve actually meaningfully intersect and actually are in direct conflict with each other.
You know, I played One's Justice 2 before I saw season 4 and read that part of the manga. And in the game, after Toga stabs Rocklock, he's not seen or mentioned again. So until I saw the show, I actually thought that Horikoshi really did kill the black guy first.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, Alec,
He
I have
would
a
never
question for you.
escape the allegations.
What's up?
So I know, like, I want to ask you a question about the fact we had a murder in this chapter. Like, something died.
Well, the
And,
robot.
you know, Ray
The
is a
robot.
murderer because she killed the robot, and I know you like the robots.
You
How
don't
did you feel?
understand. I am so upset. I was laughing so hard when I saw the Terminator stuff. Like I
Look.
was dying, and it's like, no, but Ray is dying, but I am dying because I was just so out of
the
pocket.
robot is
I loved it.
melting.
Look,
and it
I'm
just
proud.
gives her a thumbs up.
Okay, so what I like about this is that this is the first time. I don't think you could argue this is a testament to Ray as a person, but this is one of the nicest interactions one of the UA robots has ever had with the
Yeah.
Because like if you go back, they're always
Character
talking shit.
development.
They're talking so much shit. Like if you're in joint training, wow, they have to train to get stronger. Organic life forms have it rough or some shit like that. And here he is going out with a bang, like, you got this. Which to a certain degree, if you think about it, like the robots talking about their superiority, I almost want to go back now and see if it's the same robot or at least the same robot design, because then that would apply it's the same robot.
I think
That's
it
what
is
it
the
is, yeah.
same design, but obviously it's like attached to something else. Yeah, I think it is the same design. Let me see.
Yeah, so if it's the same design,
that we don't
that's
have
during
rebellion
joint
anymore.
training after round 3. So, if you're gonna go look and pull it up, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm
It
gonna
should
look
be-
for it.
Yep. So if
Yeah.
it's the same design, then basically this specific robot, this side character to a side character to a side character, has had a character journey from mocking the strength of human bodies to appreciating the strength of a mother as she outlasts him running into a heat wave. But Thomas is going to confirm this. Either way, like the robots technically still have like a
It was in the super moves chapter, right?
somewhere around there.
Okay, let me find this because I'm currently searching. 256.
And-
Oh,
and-
256. I found it. 256. They begin at, but you don't get a good look at him. I'll go to the end of the chapter because you see it moving away.
And when the leaks came out,
Yeah, I think it is the same design. Yeah.
Let's fucking go.
I will say, what you were talking about, like how Deku Black should only be compared to provisional license and the initial like 20 chapters of the series. I will also say, I think it also connects to Overhaul quite a lot, because I don't really consider provisional license the full opening act. I consider that a little teaser. I think the real opening act to like part 2 of the story is Overhaul as well, because that changed a lot of the status quo, and not evidently so at first, but gradually over time, that arc changed a lot of things for the series. And one of those was really addressing Deku's self-esteem issues with like, because like, look, Night Eye is like a total jerk in that arc.
He was an
He's
asshole.
terrible, and his
So-
words stay with him. Like, and what he said stays with him all the way into Dark Deku. And more than that, like the tragic thing about that arc is I've seen people kind of say like, oh, well, Night Eye was justified. He was reasonable. It's like, well, no, the point of that arc isn't that Night Eye is being justified or being rational. It's the opposite. It's that he's letting his cynicism override his common sense. And he gradually realizes this over the course of the arc, because he just gets force-fed humble pie through that whole arc, right? Like when he learns that like just snatching Eri at the beginning would have solved all their problems, he's like, no, that was my fault. I told them to do that. He accepts responsibility. And then by the end of it, like he sees Deku fighting Overhaul, and he's like, you know what? I was wrong. You can change the future. And I was really the one holding us all back. Right?
You know what the irony is?
He went to the shit hospital.
No. The biggest source of conflict between the source of the conflict between Night Eye and Deku is that Night Eye is effectively the adult version of Deku if he had stayed on the path he was on.
Mm-hmm.
If he stayed the All Might Super Saiyan that he is, and I have a notebook somewhere that has like a bunch of like actual handwritten stuff in it about how the quirkless Deku, as people conceptualize it before the Iron Man suit, is Night Eye. Because in combat, Night Eye only looks 1 second into the future. And he trains Mirio to have like that same level of like, not necessarily precognition, but adaptability and perceptibility to where he might as well have the ability to look a second into the future, right? So that same fighting style is based on like reading your opponent, getting ahead that way, stuff like that, not trying to go too far in the future. So if that's the case, and anybody can learn to kind of be like, see that like 1 second ahead mid combat, then for all intents and purposes, in a fight, Night Eye is quirkless. But what Overhaul arc also does, which is why if you remember every time quirkless Deku comes up, I always start at Overhaul arc when I say like once Overhaul stuff gets popping off, it's absolutely hopeless, is because Overhaul arc is about kind of like just seeing ahead or planning ahead isn't enough. Sometimes you got to do some shit that's a little different. Sometimes you got to go out of like off the books. And if you are a quirkless ass nigga, you always need a plan. You can't just do that shit.
I wasn't really sure what you were cooking at first, but I actually really like how the whole bright future thing is really cemented to the Dark Hero arc, but it does actually start in the Night Eye arc, not directly with Hawks, but just the idea. It starts with Night Eye looking to the future. So it's like, okay, I see. I'm not sure I would ever like straight up make arc equivalents because, well, for one, it's a linear story and it echoes, but it doesn't quite repeat. But like, yeah, with the Overhaul arc specifically, when you're writing a weekly serialization, that's where things kind of get messy in general, because this isn't, he's not sitting down writing a book that he gets to release in volumes at his more or less leisure. Yeah. He has to put things out weekly. And just based off author comments, but also from what I've heard about the industry, you have a story, you plan your story out, you have an endpoint in mind just in case, unfortunately, cancellation rears its head, because that's the reality of the thing. Horikoshi pulled out All Might for versus All for One for Kamino in a moment where he felt that the series was vulnerable. I don't know whether or not that's, I don't know whether it really was or wasn't at that point, but that entire stretch though was there is an alternate MHA universe where that is where this series ends. We don't get to experience that. It wouldn't be the same as what we got at all, but that's a thing. Now, the post of that is where you have things that aren't necessarily planned. Like there are things that weren't going to be there in the original run of the show. And that's where I think we get to stuff like Overhaul, Night Eye, and obviously everything after that, because most things after that, because it's basically ongoing weekly writing issues where it's like, yeah, I would have liked Star and Stripe to have been included earlier in the story. Well, we weren't.
I mean, it's funny you say that.
In my mind yet, kind of thing. That's what makes the overall arc interesting to me.
Yeah, Horikoshi did confirm that he basically planned out the whole of the second half of the series by the time of Pro Hero. So like that's why you see sort of a shift in Pro Hero where it like kind of goes away from Deku. Because my theory is like he stayed with Deku when he was like still formulating his plan. Like it's like, okay, I'm gonna focus on my MC, I'm gonna keep doing adventures with him. But when he finally finalized the plan where like okay, this is like the halfway point. I'm gonna do this and then MVA, PLW, and yada yada yada. Like that's where things kind of change for him. And he still formulates new things as he goes along, but like the overall structure and plan, he had it all ironed out by Pro Hero. I'd have to search for where he says it, but he does say
it sounds familiar to me, but I don't remember exactly either. That was my thought. He was using the overhaul arc to try and he was stalling. Because that's a long arc. He was using it he was testing himself to see how long he could write an arc. That I remember him saying that. Yeah. And that makes sense too, though, also just narratively, if you're trying to plan stuff out, well, I want this arc to keep going, so I have more time to think about that kind of thing. So that's part of what makes the overhaul arc interesting to me. And you notice that some of the aspects of the overhaul arc, the consequences, for example, the deleter bullets, they matter to the story. Eri matters to the story, but their impact on the story itself is much smaller than you might think. And I think part of it is because most of that was self-contained within the overhaul arc. But of course, Horikoshi isn't going to just write stuff and then never make use of it. So he fits it in, but it's not like
I actually had a conversation about the overhaul arc. And to a certain degree, one of the things that, as we were talking about it earlier, I realized that like both Deku and Shigaraki have these profound, bordering on "I am here" moments in that arc, but nobody's really there to properly witness it on either side. Yeah. Like for many people, when Shigaraki takes those arms from Overhaul, it's like, oh shit, he really might be the one. Similarly, when people see like, oh, this is what full power Deku was going to be like. He's about to be a menace. This dude is going to be the one. Like people saw Deku and Shigaraki's futures in that arc, what they would become, and they loved it. But I was actually in Asa's server talking about how a lot of overhaul arc also wasn't smart to publicize. Like there's two big things about the overhaul arc that I think is fascinating, because whether intentional or not, Horikoshi nails media focus. Because yes, Deku put on a clinic, and that's something that's kind of worth being excited about, right? But like heroes put on clinics every day. But you know what doesn't happen every day? The sidekick to All Might die. So even though it's not really addressed that heavily, like you remember when the kids get home and like everybody's like piling on them questions, and Edith's like, wait, no, guys, they've been through a tough battle, blah, blah, blah. We know that Night Eye's death was public news. And we know that they were trying to save Eri was public news. Like anything Deku did, even if it's like even somebody who like loves heroes isn't going to emphasize that over the fact that Night fucking died. So that heavily undercuts Deku's like big moment, right? Like nobody cares because that's not as like newsworthy, headline drawing, whatever. Overhaul losing his arms, cool, important, but that is also just a criminal getting his shit rocked after having already gotten his shit rocked. Not as important as Night died.
And so I guess what you could be saying is like Bakugo is kind of Deku's sidekick in a way, and that's why they're saving him right now. So that nobody dies.
No, what he's saying is that Deku is coming to save his love.
No.
His beloved
coming
Bakugo,
together.
Tachan.
Are you
Bro,
Baku
don't-
Deku
don't
3165 love?
I guess that's my
Oh my
bro.
God.
Don't even start, Thomas.
So what I'm saying though is that like a lot of Overhaul arc stuff kind of gets buried because it's not good for the public to know either, right? Like the deleter rounds. Who the fuck is going to publicize that? Like what government is going to let somebody be like, hey, just so you know, criminals are creating drugs that allow them to erase quirks.
That would cause like a panic.
Deku only won because technically he had no other option but to coerce a 6 or 7-year-old girl into fighting with him. Like that wouldn't like, I mean, it's cathartic when we see it, like, and it's like it's awesome, and like it allows Eri to get some of her revenge too, in a sense, but at the same time, I don't know if that would necessarily go over well in the public. So
A 16-year-old boy carrying some 9-year-old, like a 6-year-old girl on his back, fighting a kaiju monster villain.
Yeah,
that might not be the best.
But also,
if I may, I do have to get ready to leave soon.
Okay.
Which, just to say, I'd like. Can I take some time to talk about the chapter real quick before I skedaddle? Thanks. I'm not really in a rush, but I would like to just give myself some breathing room. So this was, I heard that with from Rukasu that for Golden Week, actually you have to submit 2 chapters ahead of time in order before the break starts. So it makes sense in that regard why this chapter was fairly short. It was fairly short. I didn't mind it though. One thing that I appreciated was just we kind of get to rest on what really is well, obviously dramatic, but just it's a heavy moment because even just the last chapter, Endeavor himself resolved to die, which is obviously it's completely different than how he was approaching things before. He does not think he can do anything else to possibly atone for what he has done to Toya. And so I appreciate that. I mean, in the anime, this will kind of go by pretty quickly. But as a manga reader, it is nice to just sit on these moments for a while because, you know, it lets you really just experience it. So I don't really mind the short length of the chapter, and God, everyone knows Horikoshi needs rest. But I just wanted to comment on the chapter length and that, you know, I think this is a good moment of any to rest on because now we bring in the rest of the family into the mix. And it's not that they want to die, but Rei is here because she knows what Endeavor is doing. She outright calls him out. It's like, that's what you're here to do, right? You're here to burn up and die, right? She knows what he's doing. And of course, the siblings do too. It was really seeing Fuyumi break down about not wanting to lose anyone else. That's tough because I understand her position the most out of the Todorokis. Like she has both the taste of what their family was like when they were happy when she was young, but also she gets to experience the full weight of the fall of their family. So, you know, despite not really being the main focus out of the Todoroki family at all, I appreciate her. So seeing her like this, being desperate and begging was rough. I like that Natsu actually gets to have his moment where he does get to fight, both. Well, technically he could punch Endeavor if he wanted, but he gets to slug Dabi a good one if he wants to, because, well, as a brother, you want to look out for your siblings naturally. I mean, as a sibling, you want to do that, but I just mean like, for Natsu, he never really got to be there for any of his brothers, so it was nice to see that as well. But what really gets me though is that the Todoroki family, what the word that really kind of does sum them all up, well, sum up their arc, is this responsibility. I'll go further and be a little bit philosophical and go like, it's kind of purpose. They're all finding their purpose in light of their family tragedy, and it's to how do we. It's not that they are erasing the past. It's taking what happened and finding the best possible route forward. And that's obviously hard to do because the entire family is entirely justified in wallowing in self-pity, because why wouldn't you? That's what happened was horrible. Like seeing the Todoroki family come together to try and pursue the happy end has always been a good aspect of the story. It's been inspiring for me. It's why I like Rei's character specifically. She's the most vulnerable person in the series, possibly next to Eri, I think. Eri, we don't really expect her to. I mean, Eri was entirely innocent, and of course, so is all the children in the show. So, aside from the children, though, Rei was extremely vulnerable and in an awful position. So, to see her find purpose despite the despite the hardships that she's encountered, instead of buckling, she doesn't see her. It's not that she doesn't see herself as a victim, but it's like being a victim and identifying as a victim are not the same thing. And to her, she is first and foremost the mother in the Todoroki family. So instead, so she's not. So
no, I get what you're saying, because she's not.
Yeah.
She's been a victim of stuff, but the thing is that she understands that as a mother, part of your job is to be the matriarch and a head of the family.
Yes.
And she's been gone for 10, 12 years.
Yes. Like,
so
she could not raise her kids. She like in
she'll be damned if she doesn't get to be there for them now. Like,
and it's
this
not
is
that
too
it's
important.
her, and it's not that it's her fault per se. Like, I mean, yes, like as the mother, you naturally bear responsibility, but bearing responsibility and bearing fault are not the same thing. Like if I'm taking responsibility for a situation in front of me, I could have nothing to do with that situation. But if I see that, hey, I can make this better, let's step in. Like, that's me taking responsibility. It's not, and to a point, now Rei does of course bear some fault because she is the mother. Like, we know that. But obviously she could choose to completely ignore that and be consumed in her self-pity, which she was until Shoto reached out to her and saved her. Like, and of course that's an extension of Deku's actions, and that's an extension of what I love about MHA, and I could go on and on. But point is that like the way I feel the Todoroki family story is going is towards as close to that idyllic end as possible. I'm a fan of the Pyrrhic victory. I kind of do want to see Dabi die, but like his heart gets saved is what I want to see. I want to see that. If he actually does live, I mean, I might roll my eyes just because of suspension of disbelief, right? Like, I'm like how? It's like But at the same time, like in terms of like, you know, tone of the story, themes, whatever, it still works if Dabi lives. Like, I'm not going to say I'll like it, but I'm not going to say I'm really hate it. Like, I'm not going to go on an over dramatic rant on Twitter about how MHA has fallen off or how Dabi or the Shoto's characters are ruined, or I don't know what toxic thumbnails are out there on YouTube nowadays. But anyways,
Yeah,
point being,
there's a lot.
Point being, it's like, well, everything around that is good, and whether Dabi lives or dies is like almost whatever to me compared to how fulfilling it is if his heart is able to be saved by Shoto. They have to put out that fire as the correct way to put out the fire, as you know, as they say. Yeah, the thing is though is that Dabi is kept alive by his rage, Like he should be dead even before all this started. So I don't see how Shoto or the Todoroki family in general putting that out also keeps him alive. That might actually kill him too, which is tragic. Because
Yeah,
I mean, like, he's dead. Like he's a dead man walking. Like he can't even. He's not even rational. He doesn't really have consciousness anymore. He's just.
Because with Bakugo, at least that was a specific injury, and Edgeshot is just performing surgery. Like it's superpowered surgery. It's ridiculous. And yes, I think that we should have had more moments with Edgeshot. But like at least it is surgery, is what he's doing. And okay, yeah, sure, open heart surgery, fine. Dabi is literally like a skeleton. Like he's not even flesh and bones at this point. Like
even his fantasy version is missing an arm.
Like, geez. Yeah. And oh my gosh. Anyways, so yeah, that's my thought on the life or death. I will say that this is infinitely better than the Phoenix theory. I hated the Phoenix theory. I didn't want the Phoenix theory to be a thing. I'm so glad it's not a thing. Having Ray's quirk is so much better, so much more poetic. And it really, I wasn't here last week, so I couldn't talk about it, but just when Endeavor sees that, like the weight hitting Endeavor is just, you feel it. Like it's like, holy shit, I created exactly what I wanted, and it took all of this. Everything I've done up to this point, up to pursuing my atonement, has created, it's like that Mewtwo thing where we wanted to create the world's strongest Pokemon, and we succeeded, and then Mewtwo blows up and kills everything. But it was like that kind of, but obviously on a less cartoony, more visceral level, you feel that. Like that is where you completely understand why Endeavor goes like, okay, no, this is it. Like you completely get it. Even though you disagree with the decision, or maybe you agree with the decision, and even though it still fits well with Endeavor's arc, it contradicts the story itself. And that's what I'm really impressed with the writing, that Horikoshi is willing to go very, very far with how the characters are about to just completely defy the setup for the story, the idyllic end. He's willing to go that far. And that was heavy. That was so heavy. And I'm glad we had this extra chapter to marinate on that, and also just the ending shot with the could have been how Toya is seeing the situation. There was some debate over whether or not that was Toya's vision. And I'm sorry I'm rambling so long, but I promise I'll shut up about the rest of it. But soon.
Man,
but
I like what you're saying, because to a
Talk your
certain
shit.
degree, I feel like I would almost find it cathartic in a way. Like somebody's mentioning Dabi only stayed alive due to his hatred, right? And being around his family, like obviously if Shoto shows up and he decides to rage out, that's one thing. But
yeah, I'm curious about how that'll go down. Sorry, but continue.
No. But there is a part of me that's like, like somebody mentioned in the chat, if he just like kind of has that light fade. Because my thing about this is that Endeavor looked for Toya. He started an agency of fire users to find Toya. He was doing everything in his power to find his son. And,
yeah, they didn't actually have his full body. They just had a piece of it.
And the job on.
To a certain degree, in the same way that like Toya was kept alive by hatred, I wonder if NG could also kind of go quietly into the night.
Yeah, no, that's I leave the door open. I don't think
Because
that it will, but
I don't think it's going down that way, but I could see like, because for all the I want Endeavor to die people who like really say they want Endeavor to die, they always want him to like they think he should have died during Pro Hero arc, blah blah blah.
If he dies in a way that they aren't happy, then I'm okay with it. But
like
yeah, fuck him.
It would be like a strangely like sad death if instead of him dying on a battlefield or like going out like a big hero or saving them from an explosion, it's just him being like, I dying because he's like, I failed this child so completely.
Yeah.
And I failed as a father, I failed as a husband, I always wanted to be number one, and I only got to be the number one. Like I've been a failure in every single way. Sure, I kept trying, but like
It hurts.
I never
hope
Like,
that's what
really
it hurts
did
to
anything.
see him like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So when I saw that ending shot, my thoughts were like, well, for one, oh, that is so sad, but also like, so what's in Toya's head right now? My first thought was like, well, no, this is just the situation that's around him immediately. Like he's obviously regressed, which I mean, that's technically a good sign. Like if you're going to save him, the part of him you can save is the child inside that I know we already talked about, but
Just like
like,
should be.
yeah, just like that, exactly like that. Like MHA is a story about saving kids. Like that is the thing. But anyway, well, there are many things, but sorry. Anyways, so when I was thinking about that page, I'm like, well, okay, now how is Shoto going to fit into this? And we have to remember this entire story right now, or this entire arc, is framed in surpassing All Might. The story starts with Dabi, or even this specific encounter starts with Dabi specifically melting the All Might statue. Like, like take I am not here to like a whole other level right now, and in Shoto now has to step into that role. So that's part of what I'm excited to see in the upcoming chapters, is how Shoto embraces that role of surpassing All Might. They're all going to embrace that role, but this is what we're about to see soon. Let's see, and there's probably more, but I'm just so just talking about the Todoroki family is an emotional experience, because wow, gosh. So no, thanks for having me on. I'll still lurk, obviously. I will also lurk until, I can't, but
No.
it's fun as always to talk with you guys, and thank you for the opportunity as always to share my thoughts.
Hey, I always like having you here, Steph. I was actually thinking about wrapping up because it's been going for about 2 hours, and I do want to spend some time with my wife on this day. So
It is Mother's Day.
So we'll consider that. Are you about to head out? Because that we can consider that the kickoff of the final thoughts round, and start
Okay.
going around the horn.
Yeah, that'll be good. So
All
take
right.
care, everyone.
You too.
Stay
See you soon.
safe.
All right,
Bye. Talk to you later.
Bonzu.
Hi.
You got any final thoughts? You got to hit up Bonzu first in case he's busy. All right, Joseph.
This was a very fast-paced chapter, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm liking the development. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen when Shoto finally gets there. Because that really might make this powder kick actually explode. So we'll see what happened, and I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, let's go with Thomas.
I'm sorry, Anarchy. I gotta go because I
Oh.
got something to prepare for.
Oh, then let's go both.
Yeah, can I just say
Yep.
something? All right. So great chapter. Yes, it's short, but it's just Todoroki. What Horikoshi is great at is like he leads you into thinking something is going to wrap up like in a certain way. Like he does this with All Might at Camino. He did this even more recently, where like he kind of like he tricked a lot of people into thinking AFO was the final boss when really it was still Shigaraki. Like he makes you think things are going to go a certain way, and then they don't. And that's what's happened here with, like people were anticipating, Endeavor and Dabi kind of taking each other out and dying together. That's not really what's happening here. Like the whole family has showed up to cool them both down. And it really fits, what they should have done at the start is that they all should have come together as a family to really deal with this. And I think that's really quite beautiful. I also noticed like all the people are out from like that one shelter. So I'm wondering and you see the kids from the remedial course. So I'm thinking Shoto is also gonna meet them in the aftermath and they're gonna be like, "Hey, 5PP man, you're so cool." It's gonna be like a little heartwarming moment in the aftermath of that. Yeah, I just this is really the end, man. Like I'm sure that we still got a little bit to go, especially with the chapter lengths, but it looks like this subplot is wrapping up, and it has just been masterful, start to finish. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of the series. this was another chapter showcasing that, I think. And just I keep thinking about that ending panel of Toya, like you see him still like sort of as a kid, but like he's kind of plopped on the body of adult Dabi, and like and you see like his arm is still missing, right, in that panel. So and you see the whole family with them, and it's great. It's great in terms of the dialogue, but it's also great in terms of the visuals. Excellent work, masterful. And that's my piece, and I can't wait to see how this in plotline in particular wraps up. So I'm just gonna take my leave. Thanks for having me, guys.
See you,
All right,
Bo.
thank you.
Stay safe.
All right.
Jorna?
Stay safe.
Bye.
All right. Big dope chapter overall. I feel like I've said this 1,000 times, but whenever it comes to Todoroki family, Horikoshi just doesn't miss. I don't know how he does it. Think honestly, outside of the last panel, I think my favorite like page or panel is that shot when they're telling the kids and the civilians not to look back at Dabi. I think that's just a really cool like kind of doomsday shot of just Dabi is about to explode. But other than that, yep, quality chapter, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Bonzu?
So yeah, it is a great chapter. I really love the way that Horikoshi paneling is god tier. Nothing to say about it. The way that he can show the panel. For working on my own story, making my own manga, the fact that I'm trying, naturally I try to copy him in some stuff, but the fact that I don't have the technique yet, the experience it as a artist, it's always frustrating because you want to do stuff like he does, but yeah, that man is special. So great chapter. It was short, but sure great. The more that you look at it, the more that you will appreciate what Horikoshi can give you on weekly sessions, art-wise. Next to this, the Todoroki family, like the last one said, he doesn't miss with it. Every time he finds a way to make you want more of it, want more of it, more of it. It is how well it is written, how well that he treats these people, because these characters became people, living people in general, till the end. And it's beautiful. Ray, Yori, Natsuo, Shoto, even Enji, their story, how all the things blends in. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful to see how much they still fight for their family till the end. How many families that we know of are, even our own sometimes, can be so broken. And when you see people trying to grasp these straws, try to still build this house together, this home, making a home for themselves. So yeah, I love this chapter and I can't wait to see more of it. My favorite panel will be the first one. I really love how the action was portrayed in general. And yeah, the last one is something also that was, yeah, it's really good. I can't wait to see the next chapter. Thank you. Like the stream and take care of yourself.
And Thomas, final words?
I really like the chapter. It's a very like even if it's really short, I think Horikoshi managed to convey so much emotion in it. Like I like the chapter and the leaks hit me, but watching Ocean of Code, it really prepared me for like the emotional like wreck of this chapter. Like as someone who has grown up in a like I grew up with my mom and my grandmother, so I know like the importance of a mother. Bless her soul. But like just seeing Ray being like, "Oh, Toya, I'm sorry. It's so sad because this could have been prevented in a better timeline. They would have been all happy together, especially the last panel, which kind of reinforces that. And then Fuyumi being like she can't take any more loss. It's just sad. And no matter how Horikoshi deals with this plot line, like it's still going to go out with a bang, like Dabi. it's still going to be emotional. And I've seen a lot of people say that Dabi is going to survive and he's going to be in a happy environment. But like, look what, like, even the leaker mentioned this. Gentle got jail for just theft and being a public nuisance. What will Dabi get? Like, he's not going to get that happy ending. Him being in prison eating soba with Shoto. I don't see that happening. So the best conclusion to this arc is Dabi's heart being saved and Endeavor passing away. Like, that's how I envision it. 290 is going to be crazy. Obviously, we're going to have that either with a break before that or just straight away. We still have 280 or 389. I mixed up the numbers. Even still, it's just such a treat to read this. And yeah, happy Mother's Day to everyone. Stay safe, like Mponzu said, like the stream, and that's it.
All right, thank you to everybody who came through today, and thank you for everybody who's gonna be watching the VOD later, maybe, or especially because I know some people really do actually let like the entire podcast play. So special shout out to y'all. Just enjoy your Mother's Day. Shout out to my wife who's in there loving on our baby. Shout out to all of you and who have good moms who are there for you. And if your moms aren't there for you, I'm sorry. Here's some love from my family to yours. Glad we had this good chapter, and we'll just keep up this familial cycle in the story. Hoping to see an equally good chapter on Father's Day that has some kind of familial resonance as well, because that just seems to be like how Hori likes to do it.
When's Father's Day over there?
It's next month. I think it's like the third or fourth Sunday of the month.
We're about to meet Hisashi Midoriya.
Makes sense.
But
maybe that's when All Might dies.
Maybe.
However, I'll also say perfectly fine with Horikoshi taking like a 2-3 month break.
Yep.
If that, I kind of want him to, just so he can make sure he's getting healed up, whatever. And if he does do that, maybe then we'll switch out into the reread streams and go from there. But yeah, everybody have a great day. I'm gonna go spend some time with the fam. Appreciate everybody who came through. I'm going to end this meeting as soon as I end the stream, just so you guys know in advance. Sometimes we do a little bit of chit chat afterwards, but I love every single one of you, and that's it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.